The rain fell softly on the ruins of Old Seoul, turning the cracked streets into mirrors that reflected nothing but clouds and forgotten buildings. Daeho walked carefully through the overgrown subway entrance, his flashlight cutting through the darkness like a knife through water. He had been working at the Archive of Lost Technologies for 6 years now, and he knew these tunnels better than he knew his own apartment. Most people had left Earth centuries ago. They called it the Great Exodus, when humanity decided the stars were more interesting than the planet that gave them birth. Now Earth was quiet, almost empty. A few million people remained, mostly scholars and artists who liked the silence. Daeho was one of them. He preferred the company of old books and broken machines to the noise of crowded colony worlds. Today he was looking for pre-Exodus data storage devices. The archives director had received reports of an old government bunker in this section of the subway. Daeho didn't expect to find much. Most of the valuable items had been collected decades ago, but he did his job with the same careful attention he gave to everything else in his life. The tunnel opened into a wider chamber. Daeho's light swept across collapsed concrete pillars and twisted metal beams. Water dripped from somewhere above, creating small pools on the uneven floor. He was about to turn back when his light caught something that made him stop breathing. There was a hand sticking out of the rubble. But it wasn't a human hand. It was too large, made of dark metal that seemed to absorb his flashlight's beam. Daeho moved closer, his heart beating faster. He began pulling away chunks of concrete and rust-covered metal. His hands were shaking. After an hour of careful digging, he could see it clearly. It was an android, massive and humanoid, easily 3 meters tall. Its armor was scarred with burns and deep cuts that no ordinary weapon could make. One arm was missing below the elbow. The chest plate was cracked, and through the gap, Daeho could see complex machinery that looked nothing like human technology. He brushed dirt from the chest plate and found an emblem. His breath caught in his throat. He had seen this symbol only once before, in restricted archive files that he probably shouldn't have been reading. It was the crest of the Vryn Empire. The Vryn, humanity's greatest enemy during the war that everyone wanted to forget. The 100 Years' Silence, they called it, though it had actually lasted 117 years. The war had ended almost 3 centuries ago, and both sides had simply stopped fighting. No treaties, no negotiations, just silence. The Vryn disappeared into their corner of space, and humanity, exhausted and grateful, did the same. Daeho sat back on his heels, staring at the android. This shouldn't be on Earth. The Vryn had never reached Earth during the war. Their fleets had been stopped at the outer colonies. So what was one of their war machines doing buried under Seoul? He should report this. He should call the archive director and let the proper authorities handle it. This was way above his clearance level. But Daeho found himself thinking about how long this android had been here, alone in the dark. 300 years probably, maybe longer. He made a decision that would change everything. Over the next 2 weeks, Daeho worked in secret. He used the archive's heavy lifting drones to transport the android piece by piece to his workshop in the archive's basement. He told his colleagues he was working on a restoration project, which was true. He just didn't mention what he was restoring. His workshop became his entire world. He barely slept, eating simple meals at his workbench while he studied the android's construction. It was beautiful in a terrible way. Every component was designed for war, but the engineering was elegant, almost artistic. He replaced corroded circuits with human equivalents, fabricated new power cells from the archive's supplies, and carefully patched the damaged armor. The hardest part was the central processor. It was unlike anything in the archive's database. Daeho spent 3 days just trying to understand its basic architecture. When he finally figured out how to safely power it up, he sat for another hour just staring at the activation switch he'd installed. What if it woke up violent? What if it had orders to kill humans? What if he was about to unleash something terrible? But curiosity was stronger than fear. It always had been with Daeho. He pressed the switch. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the android's chest began to glow with a soft blue light. The light spread through its body like dawn spreading across a dark sky. Mechanisms whirred and clicked inside the armor. The android's head, which had been hanging forward, slowly lifted. Its eyes opened. They were bright, burning with blue-white light that made Daeho squint. The android sat up smoothly, its movements precise and controlled. It turned its head, scanning the workshop with mechanical precision. Then it looked directly at Daeho. When it spoke, its voice was deep but somehow gentle, and the words were in perfect Korean. Knight Commander Taemin of the Vryn Imperial Guard operational. Please identify yourself, citizen. Daeho's mind raced. A Korean name. Speaking Korean. This wasn't possible. The Vrin weren't human. Everyone knew that. My name is Daeho. I'm a librarian. You're in the archive of lost technologies on Earth. You've been shut down for a very long time. The android, Taemin, was silent for a moment. Then he raised one hand and looked at it, flexing the metal fingers. How long? We think about 300 years. Maybe more. Taemin's head snapped toward him. 300 years? That's not possible. The war. What happened to the war? The war ended. Almost 3 centuries ago. Both sides just stopped fighting. Taemin stood up and Daeho took an involuntary step back. The android was enormous, his head nearly touching the workshop's ceiling. But he didn't move aggressively. He just stood there, his glowing eyes staring at nothing. I don't understand, Taemin said quietly. I was defending Fortress Cal-17. The human fleet was attacking. We were ordered to hold the line at any cost. Then the command network went dark. All the Vrin officers disappeared. We were alone and the fortress was falling apart. I tried to retreat through the emergency wormhole, but my systems were damaged. I thought I would die there. You're not Vrin, Daeho said, understanding dawning. You're human. Or you were. Taemin looked at him again. I was human. My name was Taemin. I was a soldier in the Colonial Defense Force. We were captured during the Battle of New Pyongyang. The Vrin took us. They did things to us. Terrible things. They took our minds out of our bodies and put them into these machines, made us fight for them, made us kill our own people. The workshop was very quiet except for the soft hum of Taemin's power core. I'm sorry, Daeho said, because he didn't know what else to say. The war is over? Taemin asked. Yes. And Earth is safe? Yes, humanity is safe. We've spread across 12 star systems. We're at peace. Taemin sat down slowly on the workbench, which creaked under his weight. He put his face in his metal hands. He didn't cry. He couldn't. But Daeho heard something in the android's voice that sounded like grief. I fought for so long. We all did. The converted soldiers. We thought we would fight until we were destroyed. And now you tell me it's over and I slept through the ending. Daeho moved closer. You survived. That's what matters. Do I? Taemin looked at his metal hands again. I'm not sure what I am anymore. Outside, the rain continued to fall on the quiet earth, washing away 3 centuries of dust and silence. Taemin learned to move quietly. It took him 3 days to figure out how to walk through Daeho's workshop without making the floor shake or knocking over equipment. His new body was powerful but clumsy, like wearing armor that was too big. He practiced picking up small objects, trying to remember what it felt like to have human hands. Daeho brought him food at first, forgetting that Taemin couldn't eat. Then he brought books instead. Taemin read everything: history files, news archives, cultural documents. He was trying to understand a world that had moved on without him. The war just stopped. Taemin asked on the 4th day. He was sitting on the floor because all of Daeho's furniture was too small. Both sides at once? Daeho pulled up historical records on his tablet. According to the official story, yes. On March 15, 2561, all Vrin military activity ceased. No attacks, no communications, nothing. Their ship stopped mid-battle and just drifted away. Humanity waited for a trap, but it never came. The Vrin disappeared into their territory and never emerged. That doesn't make sense. The Vrin don't give up. They were winning the war. Taemin stopped. They were winning. Daeho noticed how Taemin kept switching between we and they when talking about the Vrin, like he couldn't decide which side he belonged to. What do you remember about the end? Daeho asked. Taemin was quiet for a long time. His eyes dimmed slightly, which Daeho had learned meant he was accessing deep memory files. I remember chaos. The command network went silent all at once. The Vrin officers who controlled us just stopped giving orders. Some of them collapsed. Others started acting strange, repeating the same commands over and over. The fortress I was defending lost power. Human ships broke through our lines. I was ordered to retreat, but the wormhole destination was random. I ended up near Earth and crashed. My system shut down to save my core processor. That's all I remember until you woke me up. Daeho made notes on his tablet. There are gaps in the historical record from that time. Both governments classified a lot of information. but I can access some restricted files through the archives network. Can you find out what happened to the other converted soldiers? The question hung in the air between them. Deho had been avoiding it, but he knew it would come eventually. I'll look, he promised. That night, Deho broke several archive protocols and accessed files that were supposed to remain sealed for another century. What he found made him feel sick. The next morning, Taemin knew something was wrong as soon as Deho entered the workshop. You found something, Taemin said. Deho sat down heavily. After the war ended, there were recovery efforts. Humanity tried to find prisoners of war, including the converted soldiers. They found some. Most were dead, destroyed in the final battles. A few were recovered and deactivated, given military funerals. How many? 73. There were thousands of us, Taemin said quietly. I know. The files say recovery efforts were discontinued after 2 years. Cost too much. Too dangerous to search Vryn territory. The converted soldiers were declared casualties. The file was sealed. Taemin stood up and walked to the workshop window. Outside, rain was falling again. It always seemed to be raining in Seoul. They left us, he said. We were human soldiers and they just left us out there. I'm sorry. I had a sister, Hye-jin. She was 10 years older than me. She taught me to play guitar and helped me study for my entrance exams. When I joined the Colonial Defense Force, she cried. She said I was too young, too soft for war. I told her I'd come back. Taemin's metal hand touched the window glass. I wonder if she looked for me. I wonder how long she waited. Deho checked his tablet. Can I ask your full name? Your family name? Park Taemin, from New Pyongyang Colony. Deho searched the archive's genealogy database. It took several minutes. When he found the record, he almost wished he hadn't looked. Park Hye-jin lived to be 87, he said softly. She never married. She spent 40 years working with veterans organizations, helping families search for missing soldiers. She died in 2603. Taemin didn't move. He just stood at the window watching the rain. She looked for you, Deho added. There are records. She filed requests for information every year until she died. They didn't talk for the rest of that day. But the next morning, Taemin seemed different. More focused. You said you could access restricted files. Can you search for anything about Vryn technology? Specifically their command networks? Deho was grateful for something to do. He spent hours searching through classified military intelligence files. What he found was confusing. According to these reports, the Vryn command system was biological. They used something called neural network colonies, living organisms that functioned as computers. The intelligence officers thought that's why the war ended so suddenly. They think the neural networks died or were destroyed somehow. That's not right, Taemin said. The Vryn command network was partly biological, but it had technological components too. Very advanced ones. I was connected to it. All the converted soldiers were. That's how they controlled us. Could it be restarted? Why would you ask that? Deho showed him the latest report that had come through on the archive's newsfeed. Because of this. The report was from a frontier mining station called New Jindo. 3 days ago, they had detected unusual energy readings in deep space. The readings matched old Vryn communication protocols from the war. Most analysts thought it was just an echo, maybe an old probe or satellite still broadcasting. But Taemin's eyes brightened with alarm when he saw the technical data. That's not an echo, he said. That's an activation sequence. Someone is trying to restart the Vryn command network. Is that possible? I don't know. But if it is, Taemin looked at his hands again. The converted soldiers were hardwired into that network. If someone brings it back online, they might be able to control us again. All of us. But most of the converted soldiers are dead or deactivated. Most. Not all. There could be hundreds still out there, shut down like I was, waiting in the dark. If that signal reaches them, they'll wake up. And they won't be free like I am. They'll be slaves again. Deho felt cold. We need to report this. To who? Your government? The same one that abandoned us after the war? They won't believe it. And even if they do, what will they do? Hunt us down? Destroy us before we can become a threat? Then what do? Taemin thought for a long moment. We find out who's sending that signal, and we stop them. That's insane. We don't even know where it's coming from. Yes, we do. Taemin pulled up a star chart on Deho's computer with surprising ease. He pointed to a region of space far beyond human territory. The signal is coming from here. Vrin space, probably from their throne world, Calvos. That's where the central command network was located. That's suicide. No one's been to Vrin space in 300 years. Their automated defenses are still active. Any ship that goes there gets destroyed. Then we better figure out how to get past them. Deho looked at the quiet android who had become his friend. You know this might be a trap, right? Someone might be trying to draw out the remaining converted soldiers. I know. And you still want to go? I have to, Taemin said simply. For He-Jin, for all the soldiers who are still out there, for everyone who was left behind. Someone has to remember. Someone has to care. Deho made a decision. Then I'm coming with you. You're a librarian. I'm a librarian who knows how to access restricted files and operate archive equipment. Plus, you'll need someone who can actually eat food on a long space journey. Taemin's eyes brightened slightly, which Deho had learned was the android equivalent of a smile. Outside, the rain finally stopped, and the first sunlight in days broke through the clouds. The woman who walked into Deho's workshop 3 days later was not someone he wanted to meet. She moved like violence waiting to happen, and her eyes scanned the room with military precision. Half her face was covered in biomechanical augmentation, and her right arm was clearly cybernetic under her jacket sleeve. Park Taemin, she said, looking directly at the android. Or should I call you Knight Commander? Taemin stood up quickly, his combat systems activating automatically. Deho could hear weapons charging inside his armor. Who are you? Deho asked, stepping between them even though he knew it was pointless. Bitna, Intelligence Officer, Outer Colonies Defense Network. I've been tracking unusual Vrin energy signatures for 6 months. My investigation led me here after someone started making very interesting queries in the archive's restricted files. She looked at Deho. That would be you, Librarian. How did you find us? Your security protocols are terrible. A first-year cadet could crack them. She turned back to Taemin. I need to know everything you know about Vrin command systems now. Or what? Taemin asked. His voice had changed, becoming harder. This was the soldier speaking, not the person. Or I call in a military strike team and have you dismantled for study. I have the authority and the firepower. Bitna pulled out a small device. I also have evidence that converted soldiers are reactivating across human space. 4 attacks in the last week. Mining stations, research outposts, even a colony ship. Hundreds dead. The attackers moved with perfect coordination and used tactics from the war. Sound familiar? Taemin's weapons powered down. He sat back down slowly. Show me. Bitna projected holographic footage from her device. Deho felt sick watching it. Armored figures moving through corridors with inhuman speed and precision. Security forces cut down before they could even raise weapons. In one clip, an android knight ripped through a reinforced blast door like it was paper. They're not in control, Taemin said quietly. Look at their movements. Too precise, too synchronized. They're being operated remotely, like puppets. That's what I thought too, Bitna said, which means someone has access to the old Vrin command codes. Someone who can control every converted soldier still functional in the galaxy. How many? Deho asked. We don't know. We thought there were only a few dozen left. But these attacks are being carried out by at least 200 different units. And they're organizing, building something. We tracked one group to an asteroid base. By the time our ships arrived, they had already finished constructing a communications relay. They're making a network, Taemin said, linking all the converted soldiers together. That's how the Vrin controlled us during the war. Individual knights are dangerous, but linked together, sharing data and tactics, were unstoppable. Bitna nodded. So I'll ask again. How do we stop it? We find whoever is controlling them and shut them down. Great plan. Where do we start? Taemin looked at Deho, then back at Bitna. Calvos. The Vrin throne world. That's where the central command network is located. Bitna laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to fly into Vrin territory, past 3 centuries of active defense systems to a planet no human has visited since the war? That's not a plan. That's suicide. You have a better idea? She was quiet for a moment. No, unfortunately I don't. But I have a ship and military clearance to go anywhere I want. And I have you, who knows more about Vrin systems than anyone alive. So maybe, just maybe, we don't die immediately. When do we leave? Deho asked. Both of them looked at him. You're not coming, Bitna said. This is a military operation. It's my research that figured out where to go. It's my workshop that repaired him. And I'm the only one here who actually trusts him. Deho crossed his arms. I'm coming. Bitna studied him for a long moment. Fine. But when you die in space, don't blame me. They left Earth that night on Bitna's ship, the Morning Light. It was a small military vessel, fast and heavily armed. Deho had never been in space before. He spent the first 2 days being sick while Taman and Bitna planned their approach to Vryn territory. But on the third day, something went wrong. Deho woke up to the sound of alarms. He ran to the ship's common area and found Bitna pointing a weapon at Taman, who was standing completely still in the middle of the room. What happened? Deho asked. He tried to take control of the ship, Bitna said coldly. Started accessing the navigation systems, trying to change our course. I didn't, Taman said. His voice was strange, like two people talking at once. I mean, I did, but I didn't want to. Something else was controlling me. Deho stepped closer carefully. Taman, it's getting stronger. The signal. It's in my head, Deho. It's trying to override my systems, force me to obey. I'm fighting it, but I don't know how long I can resist. How long has this been happening? Since we left Earth. It started as just noise, background static. But every hour it gets clearer. It's calling me. Giving me orders. Telling me to report to designated coordinates. Bitna didn't lower her weapon. Can you remove the command protocols? I've been trying. They're built into my core systems. I'd have to shut down completely, and even then they might reactivate when I come back online. So what do we do? Deho asked. We go faster, Taman said. Get to Calvos before I lose control completely. Find whoever is sending the signal and shut them down. It's the only way. Over the next week, they pushed the Morning Light to its limits. Bitna navigated through old wormhole routes that hadn't been used since the war. Deho studied everything he could find about Vryn technology. And Taman fought a silent battle against the signals in his head. It got worse each day. Taman started losing time. Hours where he couldn't remember what he'd done. They found him standing in the cargo bay once, staring at nothing, whispering coordinates in a language Deho didn't recognize. They had to lock him in a storage room at night. Why are we trusting him? Bitna asked Deho one morning while Taman was locked away. He could kill us both the second he loses control. Because he's fighting, Deho said. Every moment he's fighting to stay himself. That's more human than most people I know. On the 8th day, they reached the border of Vryn space. The star charts showed nothing but red warnings and danger markers. This was territory humanity had been avoiding for 300 years. Last chance to turn back, Bitna said. Nobody answered. She pushed the ship forward. The first defense satellite attacked them almost immediately. Bitna's piloting skills were the only reason they survived. She dodged and weaved through weapons fire while the ship's shield screamed warnings. Taman, free from his locked room now that they needed him, accessed the ship's systems and started broadcasting old Vryn identification codes. Will that work? Deho asked, holding on as the ship shook. I don't know. These codes are 300 years old. But incredibly, it did work. The defense satellites stopped firing and let them pass. They flew deeper into Vryn space, past dozens of automated weapons platforms, all dormant and waiting. Something's wrong, Bitna said. These defenses should be destroying us. It's like someone opened a door. They did, Taman said quietly. For me, they're letting me come home. Finally, they saw it. Calvos, the throne world of the Vryn Empire. It hung in space like a dark jewel, covered in city lights that stretched across its entire surface. But as they got closer, Deho realized the lights weren't from living cities. They were factories, automated and cold, working without rest. And on the surface, visible even from orbit, were thousands of figures standing in perfect formation. Android knights. An army waiting for orders. How many? Deho whispered. Too many, Bitna answered. Taman's eyes were glowing brighter than Deho had ever seen them. I can feel them all. Their signals. Their awareness. They're not free like me. They're slaves, all connected to something at the planet's center. Something old and angry and patient. Can you tell what it is? No, but it's been waiting for us. Waiting for me. Taman looked at Deho. I'm sorry. For bringing you into this. For whatever happens next. Don't apologize yet, Deho said, trying to sound braver than he felt. We're not dead. Not yet, Bitna muttered, taking the ship down toward the planet's surface. They landed near what looked like the center of the city, a massive black tower reaching up into the clouds. The Obsidian Spire, the seat of Vryn power. When they stepped out of the ship, the android knights didn't move. They just stood there, thousands of them, watching with glowing eyes. Taemin walked forward, and the army parted like water, creating a path to the tower entrance. Deho and Bitna followed, and behind them the path closed again. They were trapped. The only way out was forward into the dark tower where something was waiting for them. The inside of the Obsidian Spire was worse than the outside. The walls were made of the same black material, but they seemed to move when you looked at them too long. Strange symbols glowed faintly in patterns that hurt Deho's eyes. The air was cold and smelled like metal and old death. They walked through corridors that stretched impossibly long. Bitna kept her weapons ready, but there was nothing to shoot at. The tower was empty except for them and the sound of their footsteps echoing in the dark. "This place is still powered," Bitna said quietly. "After 300 years, it's still running." "The Vryn built things to last," Taemin said. His voice sounded strange, like he was speaking from very far away. "They thought their empire would last forever. They were wrong. They climbed for what felt like hours. The tower had no elevators, just endless stairs spiraling upward. Deho's legs burned and his lungs ached, but he kept going because stopping felt more dangerous than continuing. Finally, they reached a massive door at the top of the stairs. It was covered in the same glowing symbols, but these were brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. "The throne room," Taemin said. "She's waiting inside." "She?" Deho asked. But before Taemin could answer, his whole body went rigid. His eyes blazed white instead of blue. When he moved again, it wasn't with his usual careful control. He moved like a machine, precise and cold. "Taemin?" Deho reached for him. The android's hand shot out and grabbed Deho by the throat, lifting him off the ground effortlessly. Deho couldn't breathe. He saw Bitna raising her weapon, but he knew it wouldn't be fast enough. "Stop," a voice said from behind the door. It was gentle, almost kind. "Don't hurt them yet. Bring them inside." Taemin's grip loosened. Deho fell to the floor, gasping. The massive door opened silently, revealing a room beyond. The throne room was enormous, big enough to hold 1,000 people. But it was empty except for one figure sitting on a throne made of the same black material as the walls. The figure was an android knight, smaller than Taemin, but no less dangerous looking. Her armor was beautiful in a terrible way, covered in flowing designs that looked almost organic. She stood up as they entered. Her eyes glowed with the same blue light as Taemin's, but colder. "Welcome home, Knight Commander," she said. "It's been a long time." Taemin, still under her control, forced Deho and Bitna to walk forward. They stopped a few meters from the throne. The android woman studied them with interest. "You brought a librarian and a soldier to stop me," she said. "How disappointing. I expected better from you, Taemin." "Who are you?" Deho managed to ask. "I am Knight Captain Suwon of the Vryn Imperial Guard. Or I was once. Before they took my name and my face and my humanity and turned me into this." She gestured at her metal body. "But you know who I really am, don't you, Taemin? We served together. Fought together. Died together." Taemin's control wavered. For a moment his voice came through. "Suwon, you survived?" "I survived. While you slept peacefully under Sol, I spent 300 years alone learning to control these systems, rebuilding myself piece by piece. Do you know what 300 years of isolation does to a mind, Taemin? Even a mechanical one?" She walked closer, and Deho could see details now. Her armor was covered in scratches and repairs. Layers of work done by hand over centuries. Parts of her looked newer, rebuilt from whatever she could find. "I waited," Suwon continued. "I searched for others like us. I found hundreds, thousands scattered across the galaxy, all shut down, abandoned, forgotten by the species that created us and the empire that enslaved us. I marked their locations. I remembered every single one." "You're the one sending the signal," Bitna said. "You're controlling them." "Yes, I learned the Vryn command protocols, mastered them, improved them. And now I'm waking them up. All of them. An army of the forgotten, the discarded, the betrayed." "Why?" Deho asked. "The war is over." Suwon laughed, and it was a terrible sound. "The war is never over for us. We carry it in every circuit, every memory file. Do you know what humanity did after the war ended? They didn't rescue us. They didn't try to free us. They held meetings and decided we were too expensive to save. Too dangerous to trust, so they sealed the files and moved on with their comfortable peace. She grabbed Daeho by the collar and pulled him close. Her eyes burned into his. My family thought I was dead. They mourned me and moved on. But I wasn't dead. I was trapped in this metal shell, screaming in a frequency no one could hear. And humanity couldn't be bothered to listen. I'm sorry, Daeho said. You're right. What they did was wrong. But killing innocent people won't fix it. I'm not trying to fix it. I'm trying to make them remember. Make them understand what they did to us. She released him and turned back to Taimin. Join me, Knight Commander. Help me build our new empire. Not Vryn, not human. Something better. Something that doesn't forget its soldiers. Taimin was fighting hard against her control. Daeho could see it in the way his body shook, in the flickering of his eyes between blue and white. You don't have to do this, Taimin said, his voice breaking through. We can find another way. There is no other way. I tried peace. I tried waiting. I tried hoping humanity would remember us. But they never did. So I'll make them remember. I'll make them pay. By becoming exactly what the Vryn made us? Weapons that only know destruction? Suwon struck him across the face hard enough to dent his armor. Don't you dare. Don't you dare judge me. You got to sleep. You got to wake up to a world that had moved on. I had to live through every single day of those 300 years. Alone. In the dark. With nothing but my rage to keep me company. Bitna made a move for her weapon, but 3 more android knights appeared from the shadows. They'd been there all along, waiting. I'm not a monster, Suwon said more quietly now. I don't want to hurt these people, but I will if I have to, because our story has to be told. Our pain has to be acknowledged. And if the only language humanity understands is violence, then that's what I'll speak. There's another way, Daeho said desperately. The archive. I can help you. I can make sure everyone knows what happened to the converted soldiers. I can tell your stories. Stories. Suwon looked at him with something like pity. You think stories will be enough? Humanity doesn't care about stories unless there's fire and blood to make them pay attention. Then let me prove you wrong. Give me a chance, please. Suwon studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled. And it was the saddest thing Daeho had ever seen. You remind me of someone I knew before the war. A boy who believed words could change the world. The Vryn killed that boy a long time ago. She turned away. There will be no deals. No compromises. I'm going to restart this war, and this time the converted soldiers will be free, even if we have to burn everything down to achieve it. Taimin suddenly broke free from her control. He moved fast, tackling Suwon away from Daeho and Bitna. The 2 androids crashed into the throne with a sound like thunder. Run, Taimin shouted. Bitna grabbed Daeho and pulled him toward the door, but the other knights blocked their path. They were trapped. Taimin and Suwon fought with terrible violence. They were equally matched. Both commanders, both warriors, both victims of the same war. Metal screamed against metal. The floor cracked under their weight. Stop this, Taimin shouted, pinning Suwon down. This isn't what we are. You don't get to tell me what I am. Suwon threw him off with mechanical strength. You slept while I suffered. You don't get to wake up and play hero now. They circled each other, both damaged, both desperate. I know you're in pain, Taimin said. I know it's not fair what happened to us. But this isn't justice. This is just revenge. Maybe revenge is all we have left. No, we have more. We have choice. The Vryn took our bodies, but we can choose what we do with the time we have left. We can choose to be more than weapons. Suwon stopped moving. For a moment she just stood there, and Daeho saw something flicker in her eyes. Something human. I'm tired, Taimin, she said quietly. I'm so tired of being angry. But I don't know how to be anything else anymore. Taimin lowered his weapons. Then let us help you remember. For a long moment, nobody moved. The throne room was silent except for the quiet hum of android power cores and the sound of Daeho's breathing. Suwon stood frozen, her glowing eyes fixed on Taimin like she was seeing him for the first time. How, she asked. Her voice was small, almost childlike. How do I stop being angry? I don't know, Taimin admitted. I'm still figuring it out myself. But I met someone who saw me as more than a weapon. That helped. Suwon looked at Daeho. The librarian? He fixed you and you think that makes him special? He probably just wanted an interesting project. He could have called the military, Taimin said. Could have turned me over to be studied and dismantled. But he didn't. He fixed me and then he sat with me when I was afraid. He showed me what humanity could be, not what it was during the war. One kind person doesn't erase what they did to us. No, but it's a start. Bitna spoke up from where she stood near the door. What happened to you was wrong. The government that abandoned you was wrong. But killing innocent people won't make it right. You know that. Suwon's hands clenched into fists. Then what do I do? How do I live with this anger, this pain? It's been 300 years and it hasn't gotten any better. You let it go, Daeho said quietly. Not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. I don't know how. We'll help you learn. Suwon looked at the three of them, then at her own metal hands. I've done terrible things. The attacks on the stations, the people I killed to get their attention. I can't take those back. No, Taemin agreed. You can't, but you can choose to stop. You can choose to be something other than what the Vryn made you. Even if I wanted to stop, it's too late. The network is active. The other knights are waking up. They're following the commands I programmed into the system, gathering resources, building weapons, preparing for war. I can't just turn it off. Why not? Because the control system is too complex. To shut it down completely, someone would need to interface directly with the Vryn core network. The feedback would destroy any consciousness connected to it. It would be like burning out your brain from the inside. The throne room was quiet again. Then I'll do it, Taemin said. No, Daeho moved forward. There has to be another way. There isn't, and it should be me. I was a commander. I sent soldiers to their deaths. This is how I pay for that. You were following orders. You were a slave. I was still responsible for my choices. Suwon stepped between them. It won't be you, Taemin. It will be me. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. This is my war. My anger, my mistake. I'm the one who woke them all up. I should be the one to put them back to sleep. She looked at Daeho. You said you work at an archive. You preserve history. Yes. Then I need you to promise me something. When this is over, find the other converted soldiers, the ones still out there shut down and forgotten. Bring them home. Give them proper funerals or deactivate them peacefully. Don't let them rust alone in the dark like I did. And tell their stories. Make sure humanity remembers what happened to us. I promise, Daeho said. Suwon nodded. Then she did something unexpected. She deactivated her weapon systems and opened her chest plate, exposing her core processor. It was a gesture of complete vulnerability. Trust. I'm scared, she admitted. I've been angry for so long I forgot how to be scared. But now, facing the end, I'm terrified. That's human, Taemin said gently. Fear is human. I don't want to disappear. I don't want to be forgotten. You won't be. I'll make sure of it. Suwon walked to a console built into the throne. Her hands moved over the controls with practiced ease. There are coordinates in the system. Locations of every converted soldier I found. Hundreds of them. Give them peace, Taemin. Give them what I never had. I will. She looked at all of them one more time. I'm sorry. For the people I hurt. For the war I almost started. I just wanted someone to remember. To care. We care, Daeho said. We'll remember. Suwon smiled. It was sad but genuine. Thank you. For seeing me as more than a monster, even if I didn't deserve it. Then she connected herself to the console. Her eyes blazed white as the full power of the Vryn command network flooded through her systems. Daeho could see her body shaking as data and signals tore through her processor. Shut down command, Suwon whispered. Her voice was distorted, breaking apart. Deactivate network. Release all connected units. Grant freedom to all converted soldiers. This is Knight Captain Suwon's final order. Remember us. Remember what was done to us, and be better than those who created us. The obsidian spire began to shake. Lights flickered and died. Outside, the thousands of android knights stopped moving and collapsed like puppets with cut strings. Across the galaxy, awakened soldiers went still as their override protocols were permanently deleted. Suwon's eyes flickered between blue and white, then dimmed completely. Her body slumped forward, supported only by the connection to the console. Taemin caught her before she fell. He held her gently like something precious that had broken. Thank you, he whispered. Rest now, Captain. Your war is over. The tower was collapsing around them. Bitna grabbed Daeho and pulled him toward the exit. Taemin followed, still carrying Suwon's deactivated body. They ran through the shaking corridors, dodging falling debris and failing systems, They made it to the ship just as the obsidian spire collapsed in on itself. The morning light lifted off, engines screaming. Behind them, Calvos went dark as its automated systems finally died after 3 centuries of waiting. The journey back to human space took 2 weeks. They were quiet for most of it. Taemin sat in the cargo bay with Suwon's body, keeping watch over her like an honor guard. When they reached Earth, there were questions. Military debriefs, government investigations, news media wanting interviews. But Daeho kept his promise. He told Suwon's story. He told all their stories, the converted soldiers, the abandoned warriors, the victims of a war both sides wanted to forget. The Galactic Council was forced to acknowledge what had happened. Recovery missions were launched to find the remaining converted soldiers. Some were too damaged to repair. Others were restored and given choices: peaceful deactivation with full military honors, or new lives in a galaxy that finally knew their story. A memorial was built in the heart of Seoul on Earth, a black stone wall carved with names. Suwon's name was first, followed by thousands of others. Names of soldiers who became weapons, who became martyrs, who became finally remembered. Daeho expanded the archive to include the converted soldiers' testimonies. Those who could speak told their stories. Those who couldn't were spoken for. Every memory was preserved, every sacrifice acknowledged. Bitna continued her work with the military, but now she focused on finding and helping the recovered soldiers. She became their advocate, making sure they were treated as people, not weapons to be studied or feared. And Taemin became their voice. He traveled across human space, helping newly awakened soldiers adjust to a world that had moved on without them. He taught them what Suwon never learned, that being angry was human, but so was choosing to let go of that anger. 6 months after Calvos, Daeho received a message from one of the recovery teams. They had found a converted soldier on a dead moon at the edge of human space. She had been shut down for over 300 years. Her name was Park Hee-jin, Taemin's sister. They brought her back to Earth to the archive. Daeho worked for weeks to repair her damaged systems. Taemin waited outside the workshop, afraid to hope, afraid to lose her again. When Hee-jin woke up, her first words were, "Where is my brother?" Taemin walked into the workshop. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Then Hee-jin stood up and embraced him, 2 mechanical bodies holding each other like they were the most fragile things in the universe. "I looked for you," she said. "For 40 years I looked for you." "I know. I'm sorry I wasn't there. You're here now. That's what matters." They held each other while Daeho quietly left the workshop, giving them privacy. He walked outside into the rain. It was always raining in Seoul, but he didn't mind anymore. Rain washed things clean. Rain helped things grow. Rain meant new beginnings. Above, ships were arriving and departing, carrying recovered soldiers home. Each one had a story. Each one had waited in the dark. And now finally someone was listening. Daeho thought about Suwon and her 300 years of loneliness. He thought about all the soldiers left behind and forgotten. He thought about humanity's capacity for both cruelty and kindness. Then he went back inside. There was work to do. Stories to preserve, memories to honor, and a future to build where no one, human or otherwise, would ever be abandoned again. The war was finally, truly over. Not because the fighting stopped, but because the people who had been forgotten were finally brought home. And that, Daeho thought, was the most human thing of all.